Dear friends, welcome to Military Now, where you get informed on the most relevant facts happening in the world today. In this video, we will talk about the development that the world had been waiting for and dreading in equal measure. On day 29 of the war between the United States, Israel, and Iran, Yemen's Houthi movement officially entered the conflict. Ballistic missiles were launched toward southern Israel this morning. Sirens sounded across Beersheba and the surrounding area. And with that single barrage, this war acquired something it did not have before: a second front, a second strait, and a second choke point on the global energy map. To understand what the Houthi entry means, you have to understand the geography. Since February 28th, the Strait of Hormuz has been effectively closed. Iran declared the waterway off-limits to American, Israeli, European, and Allied shipping from the first hours of the war. Roughly 20% of the world's oil supply moves through that narrow passage between Iran and Oman. Its closure has already pushed oil prices above $115 per barrel and triggered what the International Energy Agency has called the worst energy crisis since the 1970s. Now, there is a second choke point under threat. The Bab al-Mandeb Strait connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. It is 29 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, almost the same width as Hormuz. Through it passes approximately 12% of the world's seaborne oil trade and more than 30 million tons of liquefied natural gas annually. It is the gateway from the Persian Gulf and Arabian Sea to the Suez Canal and the European market. From a maritime trade perspective, Hormuz and Bab al-Mandeb are not two separate choke points. They are two ends of the same artery. Ships leave the Gulf through Hormuz, cross the Arabian Sea, pass through Bab al-Mandeb into the Red Sea, and continue toward Suez. If both straits are simultaneously closed or under sustained attack, that artery breaks end to end. There is no alternative route to Europe that does not add weeks of transit time and thousands of nautical miles around the Cape of Good Hope. The Houthis control Yemen's Red Sea coast. They hold the port of Hodeidah. Their missile and drone arsenal, supplied by Iran over more than a decade through covert smuggling networks, has demonstrated a range that extends well beyond the Red Sea. Between late 2023 and October 2025, the Houthis attacked more than 100 merchant vessels in the Red Sea. They sank 2 ships. They killed 4 sailors. They forced hundreds of vessels to reroute around Africa, disrupting global supply chains and driving up shipping insurance costs to levels not seen in years. They had suspended those attacks in October 2025 following the Gaza ceasefire proposal. Since the Iran war began on February 28th, they stayed out of the fighting, but barely. Their paramount leader, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, said 5 days into the war that the group's fingers were on the trigger. On Friday, March 27th, military spokesman Yahya Saree issued a formal warning. The Houthis would enter the war if U.S.-Israeli escalation continued, if other countries joined the campaign against Iran, or if the Red Sea was used to launch attacks on the Islamic Republic. Saree also said the Houthis would not allow Bab al-Mandeb to be used for hostile operations against any Muslim country. Then, on Saturday morning, they acted. Saree announced the launch of a barrage of ballistic missiles, targeting what he described as sensitive Israeli military sites in southern Israel. The Israeli military confirmed it had detected a missile launched from Yemen, the first such detection since the war began, and said one missile was successfully intercepted by air defenses. Sirens activated across the Beersheba area in southern Israel. Saree stated that the attacks will continue until the declared objectives are achieved, and until the aggression against all fronts of the resistance ceases. The Houthis' deputy information minister, Mohammed Mansour, told local media that closing the Bab al-Mandeb Strait is among the group's options. This entry has immediate military consequences for the United States. For 29 days, the U.S. Air Force and Navy have been focused on Iran, strikes on nuclear sites, missile infrastructure, command and control nodes, naval assets, and energy facilities. The combat resources available in the theater, while substantial, are not unlimited. Now Washington faces a second front that requires a response. Targeting Houthi missile launch sites in Yemen means diverting combat aircraft from strikes on Iran. It means expending more precision-guided munitions. It means stretching the aerial refueling chain that is already under pressure after the loss of multiple KC-135 tanker aircraft since the war began. It also means draining air defense interceptors. The Houthis entry amplifies Iran's core strategy to exhaust American and allied air defense stockpiles through volume. Every Houthi missile that Israel intercepts is an arrow or Patriot round that cannot be used against the next Iranian barrage. Every Houthi drone that Gulf states shoot down is an interceptor gone. The math of attrition moves incrementally in Iran's favor every time a new launcher joins the fight. There are also significant developments from the last 48 hours that provide critical context for where this war stands. Israel killed the Iranian Navy's top commander, Rear Admiral Alireza Tangsiri, in an airstrike on March 26th. Tangsiri was, according to Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, the officer directly responsible for the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and overseeing every naval operation to enforce it. His death removes Iran's most experienced naval commander at the precise moment when Iran's maritime operations are under maximum pressure. Whether the IRGC Navy can maintain the same operational tempo without him is an open question. On the aviation side, new footage released by Kavak Brazil this week showed a U.S. Navy F/A-18 Super Hornet narrowly escaping an Iranian surface-to-air missile during a low-altitude strike mission over Chabahar. The aircraft can be seen releasing flares and executing a sharp defensive brake as the missile passes within meters. The video is a reminder that American pilots are operating in an environment where Iranian air defenses, though significantly degraded, remain capable of engaging aircraft at low altitude. Additionally, an Iranian FPV drone struck an American UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter at a base in Iraq, exposing the vulnerability of rotary wing assets to cheap, maneuverable first-person view drones that are extremely difficult to detect and intercept with conventional air defense systems. In Kuwait, an Iranian drone struck fuel storage tanks at Kuwait International Airport. The resulting fire was visible from space, with a long trail of black smoke captured in satellite imagery. Kuwait condemned the strike in the strongest possible terms. A port in Oman was also targeted by 2 unmanned aerial vehicles, the Omani government confirmed. And then there is the USS Gerald R. Ford, the most advanced aircraft carrier in the U.S. Navy, a ship that was part of the original force posture for this war, docked in Split, Croatia this week, for what the Navy described as a scheduled visit and maintenance. What was not scheduled was the reason behind the port call. According to reporting confirmed by the Times of Israel, the Ford had experienced a fire in its laundry facility at sea. The ship was taken out of the operational theater for repairs. This means that one of the 2 carrier strike groups that began this war in the Eastern Mediterranean is currently not combat operational. The Abraham Lincoln and George H.W. Bush groups remain active in the Gulf. But the Ford's absence is a real reduction in available air wing capacity. at a moment when the war is expanding. Iran, for its part, showed no signs of backing down on March 27th. It reported blocking 2 Chinese vessels attempting to pass through the Strait of Hormuz and announced plans to formalize a fee structure for ships seeking passage, a move that amounts to treating the world's most critical oil transit corridor as Iranian territorial waters subject to Iranian taxation. Israeli airstrikes damaged the Shahid Khandab heavy water complex in Arak and the Ardakan yellowcake production plant in Yazd province, 2 facilities directly linked to Iran's nuclear program. Despite ongoing diplomatic contact through intermediaries, Israeli Defense Minister Katz publicly vowed to intensify and expand Israeli attacks in Iran. A poll released this week by AP Norc found that the majority of Americans now say the U.S. military action against Iran has gone too far. The survey reflects a domestic political environment that is beginning to shift under the weight of rising fuel prices, military casualties, and the open-ended nature of a war that the administration initially said would last 4 to 6 weeks. U.S. officials have now privately acknowledged that timeline may not hold. Pakistan convened a meeting of foreign ministers from Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, starting Sunday to discuss regional developments, the most significant multilateral diplomatic initiative since the war began. Pakistan's Prime Minister also held a 1-hour call with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. The UN Secretary-General called on the United States and Israel to end the war, saying it has gone too far, while simultaneously demanding that Iran halt attacks on neighboring countries. This war began 29 days ago with a shock and awe aerial campaign designed to produce rapid results. The results have been real. Iran's nuclear infrastructure is significantly damaged. Its senior military leadership has been decimated, and its missile force is degraded. But the regime has not fallen. Iran is still shooting. Its Houthi allies have now entered the fight. The Strait of Hormuz is closed, and a second strait is now under active threat. American opinion is turning. And one of the most powerful aircraft carriers in the world is currently in a Croatian port being repaired after a laundry fire. This is not the war anyone planned for. And it is not over. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave your like. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything new.